Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to talk about flowers in our unit on art. Okay, we all know about the art of flowers. Of course, here in Taiwan, flower arranging is a very popular activity. And of course, people like to paint flowers. They like to go down to parks and take pictures of flowers. So, of course, lots of people here in Taiwan just love their flowers. But we've got a different kind of flower art to talk about today. It's the art of pressed flowers or pressed flower art.
The difference between pressed flower art and just flower art using fresh flowers is that fresh flowers are 3D. You can walk right around them, but the pressed flowers are just 2D. They have to be placed flat to maintain their structure because once they're dry, they start to easily come apart, so you have to be careful with them. And I do have some experience with pressed flowers.
I have a little bit too, which I'll talk about in just a second, but let's get to it, everybody. Let's listen to the entirety of our article read now from top to bottom.
A beginner's guide to pressed flower art. Have you ever spotted a beautiful wildflower and wished you could preserve its beauty forever? With pressed flowers, you can. This ancient craft allows you to capture nature's artwork in a simple yet magical way. Creating pressed flowers is surprisingly easy. Just place your chosen flower between two sheets of absorbent paper and then press them under heavy books. After a few weeks, you'll discover that although the flower has been flattened, it still retains its delicate details and colors. Completed pressed flowers can have various creative uses. You can use them to decorate greeting cards and bookmarks or frame them to hang on your wall. Besides encouraging creativity, pressing flowers offers many unexpected benefits. By searching for and appreciating different plants, you can develop a deeper understanding of our natural environment. The process teaches patience as you wait for perfect results. Best of all, this hobby doesn't require expensive equipment, just paper, flowers, and something heavy. Pressed flower art has been around for centuries. As early as the 16th century in Japan, samurai practiced flower pressing as a form of mental training. In 19th century Europe, ladies loved using pressed flowers to decorate their letters and diaries. Now it's your turn to carry on this beautiful and ancient tradition.
Okay, everybody, it's time for us to discuss the contents of our article for today. It's a beginner's guide to pressed flower art. So if you've never heard of this before, this is some basic information that you might want to know. And with this basic information, you might become interested in pursuing this kind of art. Now, here's our question. Have you ever spotted a beautiful wildflower and wished you could preserve its beauty forever? I think most of us could say yes to that. Of course, here in Taiwan, we've got different seasons for different flowers. We've got cherry blossoms in the spring. We've got plum blossoms at other times of the year. There are roses, chrysanthemums, lotuses, etc. There are all sorts of flowers. But how do we sort of preserve their beauty? We want to keep it to ourselves. I think a lot of people, of course, take pictures. And as I said before, lots of people like painting or flower arranging. But we're talking about another way today to preserve the beauty. So if you preserve something, you just kind of keep it for a long time.
You can preserve old buildings. Maybe you have an historical building in your neighborhood, and you just want to take good care of it so it's around a long time, it lasts a long time. You can protect something from being harmed or destroyed by preserving something. Maybe it's raining outside and you want to preserve the documents in your hand, so you get a little plastic folder to put around them. I do that a lot here in Taiwan. You can also talk about preserving food. We'll talk about preservatives that are often added to food to keep them edible longer. But you can also maybe preserve fruit by turning it into jam. We used to make jam with my mom when I was growing up. So to preserve can also mean to prepare food in a way that prevents it from going bad or, as we say, from spoiling.
Yeah, you want to keep that flower in some form because you like it so much. And with pressed flowers, you can. So here we're introducing this art to you. Pressed flowers, flowers that have been pressed flat using some particular technique, which we'll get to in a second here. And with pressed flowers, you can. This ancient craft allows you to capture nature's artwork in a simple yet magical way. So if you work with your hands and you make creative things, we can call that a certain kind of craft. It's a special kind of skill that involves making things by hand. Okay, we also use this together with arts and crafts. Okay, arts would be, yes, painting, sculpture, and things like that. But crafts are things that are kind of decorative, macrame, forming yarn or something to hang your plants up, or knitting. That's a kind of craft. And here we've got pressed flowers. That's another kind of special skill that you can do in your free time.
Yeah, I had a good friend who was a really nice craftsman. He made furniture by hand and sold them for a lot of money. But people who have that kind of ability have usually been engaged in that craft for a while, so they've become very skilled. So yeah, it's a craft that allows you to capture nature's artwork in a simple yet magical way. It's kind of cool to keep flowers that are beautiful around forever. But remember, they're 2D, they're flat. They are no longer round and pretty and blossoming. So creating pressed flowers is surprisingly easy. It's really not that hard. I started pressing flowers when I was just a little girl in elementary school because we'd have these arts and crafts activities at school. And it's one of the things that little kids can do because you don't need a lot of hand skill, right? You just take fresh flowers and you put them between some absorbent paper, and then you put something really heavy on top and you leave them alone for a while. So let's look at the instructions here. It says, just place your chosen flower. You've got to choose what you want to press and turn into one of these dried flowers first. And then you find 2 sheets of absorbent paper. If something's absorbent, it can suck something in. We often talk about sponges. Sponges are absorbent. They suck in water and they hold that water. So you want 2 pieces of paper that can absorb any sort of water or moisture that is in that fresh flower.
Right. And remember, we've got the S as a Z sound here, absorbent. I think in some places you could say absorbent. That's fine as well.
That's weird.
That is in my dictionary, though, and I have heard people say that. But most Americans, if not all of them, will say absorbent.
Yeah.
And yes, indeed, this is probably a special kind of paper that you need to check out. I don't think it will work particularly well with standard A4 copy paper or something like that.
I use newspaper, so it does work.
Maybe that's the best one because newspaper is absorbent. It gets wet pretty quickly. And then you press them under heavy books. So you probably got a dictionary or something like that, or several books from the past, and you just put them on top of the paper. And, of course, the flower is underneath all those books, so it will get nice and flat. And after a few weeks, you'll discover that although the flower has been flattened, it still retains its delicate details and colors. Okay, so of course you know flowers are 3D in the real world. So you might think, well, if you flatten those flowers, aren't you kind of destroying them or ruining them? But actually, you'll be surprised that, yes, it has been flattened, but it still has all its details and colors. So if you flatten something, well, you make it flat, okay? Flattened can also talk about maybe some areas of land where they're going to do construction, but it's kind of hilly, so they kind of move the dirt away. They flatten the area so they can build a house on it or something like that. And here we've got the word delicate, which can mean fine, exquisite, etc. So these are delicate details, really fine details. And of course, you can still see the colors as well.
Yeah, it's really quite pretty, actually. So if something's delicate, it's easily broken, easily damaged or hurt. Sometimes we will laugh at our friends and we'll say someone has very delicate feelings. If they are insulted easily, or you can't make a joke and they get upset that you're joking around. But be aware, some people really are delicate, which means they're their feelings can be hurt, so you should be careful around them. Something is also delicate if it's really kind of subtle or soft or light in appearance or texture. We'll often describe lace, ladies, as being very delicate. It's easily destroyed if you aren't careful with these. You have to be really careful. Sometimes you can talk about a situation that's a little delicate. Maybe two friends are fighting and you like both of them and you don't want to side or choose a side because you want to stay out of it. So you have to be very delicate in how you handle that situation between friends. So we use delicate in different ways. Here, it just means it's easily damaged, so you need to be careful.
Right. And why do you do this? Well, completed pressed flowers can have various creative uses, which we'll talk about in a second here. But I'm wondering, since flowers are going to be dry after you press them, are they going to start falling apart, or do you need to spray some sort of fixative on them like you would a sketch? After you do a sketch in charcoal or pencil, you need to spray a fixative on it so that it will not smear in the future. Do you have to do that with flowers? Do you have to sort of treat them after you flatten them?
Yeah, you have to. If you want to keep them in that same state, you'll need to use something like glue or something that holds them together. Sometimes I've pressed flowers and I've forgotten to do that last step and then they get ruined. So yeah, if you want to keep them forever in that state, a lot of people will take them and immediately glue them to a piece of paper or put them in a frame so that they're held still so that they don't move. But yeah, a fixative just means some sort of glue. That's what Tom's talking about. I've heard of some people who spray hairspray on them. Mm-hmm. Hairspray is very sticky and it sticks your hair together, so it would stick the flower together as well.
Do women still use hairspray? I remember my mother using it. But...
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, so it's still around. Okay, so yes, indeed, you can use it for various creative purposes. And here are some of them. You can use them to decorate greeting cards and bookmarks or frame them to hang on your wall. So yes, you might send somebody a birthday card or an anniversary card or something like that, or a New Year's card or whatever. And so you put that flower on the card, you attach it some way, like with glue or something, and that can be quite creative, and I'm sure the person receiving the greeting card will be very happy to see a flower there. Or also you can use it to decorate your bookmarks, things you put in your book to mark your page where you left off, or you can frame them to hang on your wall. So of course you've got different kinds of artworks. You put it in a frame, which would be sort of a rectangular shaped object. It's got a frame around the outside.
Could be square, could be circle.
Indeed. Yeah. And then, of course, you put a piece of glass over that, and then you hang it on the wall. That means you frame them like you would frame a photograph or frame a painting.
Yeah, to frame something is to put that structure around something else. But you can also use it in a more figurative way. If you want to frame a discussion, it just means you're kind of making boundaries about the topic that you're going to be discussing in a business meeting. I want to frame this so that we keep our discussion, kind of tailored to what we're talking about. Some people have gone to meetings where they don't frame anything and just waste a lot of time talking about miscellaneous things. So you can use frame that way too. But again, like Tom said, it's a verb and a noun. So you can put a frame around something, or you can frame something, which just means you put that physical outside barrier around something. And usually, as Tom said, you put that glass casing in front of it, and it protects it. That's an important part of a frame, the glass part.
And another usage of the word frame as a verb means you try to get someone else to be blamed for something you did wrong. To frame somebody, hey, you stole that money. No, I've been framed. They made it look like I stole it, but actually Tom stole that money.
Yeah, they set me up.
Yep, they set you up indeed. And yes, indeed, these are some creative uses you have for flowers. And we'll also talk about some of the benefits as our lesson continues, but let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是 Patrick. 今天讲解的是 A Beginner's Guide to Pressed Flower Art. 这个单元是一篇克漏字测验，介绍的是 Pressed Flower Art 压花艺术。现在是10月份，又到了秋天， 四季变化当中，许多花草树木都纷纷卸下美丽的妆容，准备度过寒冬。花再漂亮，也难以永葆美丽。不过，透过 pressed flower art 压花艺术就做得到。这项工艺历史悠久，而且不同国家都有这项技艺的传承。好，那我们一起来看学习重点吧。请同学看到第2段。好，那我们知道前后文是非常重要的。第一段开头就提到压花是古老的工艺，可以让我们永葆花朵的美丽。接着请看第一题，在第2段前一句讲到压花，制作压花出乎意料的简单，只需要将你的空格花朵夹在2张吸水纸中间，再压在种书下面。那4个选项都是动词 choose 的不同形态变化。这一题是文法题，名词 flower 前面只能放形容词修饰，根据语义我们可以知道是被选中的花。那分词可以做形容词来用，那因为是修饰花，花是被选中的，我们要表现被动语义就需要使用过去分词，所以第一题选 D chosen。 好，紧接着是第2题题干。几周以后你会发现，虽然花朵压扁了，却依然空格精致的细节还有色彩。那4个选项全部都是动词，那是词汇题，我们看一下中文意思，用前后文做判断。好，第一个 A retains 保留， B resumes 是继续或重新开始， C disturbs 干扰， D deceives 欺骗。根据前后文，压花是要帮我们留住花朵美丽姿态的工艺，所以第2题选 A。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our art unit. We're talking about the beautiful art of pressed flowers. They look quite lovely once you've pressed them under something quite heavy between 2 pieces of paper and keep them in the state that you found it, except it's just 2D. It's not 3D. It's flat. Besides framing something, you could put it on a bookmark. In fact, I own quite a few bookmarks that I have bought at a store that have pressed flowers inside. So they are pretty lovely, but it's a way to keep them beautiful forever. As we mentioned earlier, once you put it in a frame, you're going to add some sort of fixative. Could be hairspray, it could be glue. There's resin that you can buy as well, which is a type of glue that we use in arts, especially crafts work. Arts and crafts, you'll have a resin. Violinists out there, actually string players, know what resin is. It's a different type of resin. But yeah, it's a fun hobby to have. There's someone that I know in Taiwan that is really, really talented at pressed flowers. And she puts together scrapbooks and uses those as birthday gifts. So they're blank inside, but the pages have been decorated with her pressed flowers. And she does a beautiful job. So this can be a wonderful hobby, and they make beautiful gifts if you've added them to something that you've personalized and then given away as a gift.
It just occurred to me that boys, when you send your girlfriends or your wives flowers or something, and you want to sort of preserve that sentiment, you could try pressing flowers.
Yeah.
I think most of the time you give them, a bouquet of flowers or something, and they sit on the table for a couple of days. And then they start to wither and dry and die, and you have no choice but to throw them out. Before they actually wither and die, you could try pressing them and preserving them forever, like, in a frame or something, or as a bookmark or a greeting card or something like that. So there's an idea for you. And let's continue with our lesson here. Besides encouraging creativity, like making them into pictures, paintings, or bookmarks or whatever, pressing flowers offers many unexpected benefits. So there are more advantages to pressing flowers than just creating art.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Tom, if you are ready to give a girlfriend, or maybe it's your wife or fiance, a bouquet of flowers, you could take one of the flowers out and keep it behind and press it. And then later on, as your relationship develops and maybe you even get married, you'll have that original flower from the first bouquet that you gave to her to then give her in another type of gift. So that's a lovely idea for the guys out there. Now, you can also learn a lot about different plants by just searching for and appreciating the flower or plant that you have. Usually they're flowers that we press. Although for my dad, my sister, for his funeral, my sister put together a bouquet of roses with cotton from the cotton field because my dad picked cotton when he was a kid. And we thought that was just a wonderful idea. I pressed the flower, but I have the rose that's pressed, but I have the really puffy ball of cotton to go with it. So you can do lots of fun things if you just find out about some of the different plants in your area, the different flowers. And by doing that, it says here you can develop a deeper understanding of your natural environment, which is a nice idea.
Yeah, I should know more about flowers. Of course, as a guy, we think that flowers are a girl's thing, but flowers are pretty cool because they attract bees and pollination and things like that.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of different colors. So indeed, they can give us a better understanding of botany, of plants and things like that, and of course our natural environment. And the process teaches patience as you wait for perfect results. So patience means you're willing to wait for something. A lot of times we want to take a picture and have the result right away, but if you want to have a pressed flower, it takes some time. Again, you need to press the flower underneath some books that have been wrapped around some absorbent paper, and that takes several days. So yeah, you have to have patience because you're waiting for the perfect results, and you should probably try several flowers at once to get the exact result that you're looking for.
Yeah, this is probably the hardest step in the process for little kids. They don't want to wait that long. They want to see the results immediately. Patience, of course, is the noun form of the adjective patient. Be patient, or you need some patience. And you definitely need patience if you want to get those perfect results. So best of all, it says, this hobby doesn't require expensive equipment. Oh, no. This is a pretty cheap hobby, actually. You just need the paper, some flowers, and then some heavy books. Although everybody's going electronic these days, we used encyclopedias. When I was growing up, we would just stack them on top. We'd have 4 or 5 really heavy encyclopedias. I guess you could use a dictionary. Dictionaries are still pretty thick. Maybe you have a dictionary at home you can use.
I don't think your iPad is going to be heavy enough, so yeah, probably find an old dictionary from your grandmother's closet or something like that and put that on top of it. Speaking of grandparents, I did want to convey my own experience with pressed flowers. My great-grandfather served in World War I in Europe, and he actually wrote a diary about it, and we kind of all forgot about it. But one time when I was given that diary and I opened it up, there was a poppy flower pressed between the pages, which is a flower that kind of represents World War I, and of course nowadays it represents peace and stuff like that. And the actual orange color was still there, even though it was probably wasn't preserved properly without the the fixative or whatever, but the color was still there. And I don't know what happened to that diary. Maybe my nephew has it or something.
That is so cool. Here's one of our vocabulary words, guys. Equipment is just the tools or machines or things that you need for a particular activity. Here it's a hobby. It could be for a purpose. Remember, equipment never has an S on it, ever. So don't get that wrong. Moving on to the final paragraph, it says pressed flower art has been around for centuries, as early as the 16th century in Japan. And we've got something here that a lot of our listeners know about, and that's the samurai. I've only seen movies, and television shows about the samurai. You just see them with those big swords. They were created to serve lords, feudal lords, a long time ago. They were responsible for protecting their bosses, let me just say bosses' lands, and they followed a code that emphasized honor, discipline, and loyalty. They had 2 swords a long sword and a short sword, and they played an important role in Japanese history, starting in the 12th century, and they lasted until the 19th century, the 1800s.
Indeed. And again, in the 19th century in Europe, ladies loved using pressed flowers to decorate their letters and diaries. So we mentioned some of the examples there before of creative uses of pressed flowers here. And again, we talked about the samurais pressing those flowers as a form of mental training. Mental, of course, has to do with your mind, of discipline and things like that. A samurai and the ninjas or whatever all had to go through this kind of training for body and mind. So here we've got mental training. And again, we're going to Europe in the 19th century, which would be the 1800s. And the ladies there would press them to decorate their letters, their diaries, their bookmarks, or whatever.
Kind of cool, huh? So we go from tough, kind of very serious warriors to these little delicate ladies. And they were all using this craft of pressed flowers in different ways, of course. Right now, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher one more time, and then we'll be back to wrap up.
紧接着第3题，除了激发创意，压花还带来许多空格，选项全都是形容词搭配名词，也算是词汇题。我们同样看一下4个选项中文意思，再依据前后文来选出正确答案。A. Financial rewards 财务奖励 B. Unexpected benefits 意外的益处好处再来 C. Social interactions 是社交互动 D. Career opportunities 职涯的机会好，那要判断哪个选项，我们看一下完整前后文嘛，看看后面的句子，我们再做判断。后面说，透过寻找和欣赏不同植物，可以对我们的自然环境有更深的了解。这个过程会教会我们耐性，要有耐性哦，因为我们需要等待完美的结果。看来这些都是从事压花这个活动所会产生的好处。所以呢，第3题答案就选 B, Unexpected benefits。我们会有很多意外的收获好处。好，再来看到第4题。第4题一刚开始就是空格，这项嗜好不需要昂贵的设备，只需要纸张、花朵和一些重物。4个选项都是副词片语，也算词汇题。我们看一下选项的中文意思，再按照前后文选择。A. Best of all 最棒的是 B. In other words 换句话说 C. For instance 是举例来说 D. In return 是作为回报。那前面都在说从事这项公益活动有哪些好处，后面又说这项嗜好不需要昂贵的花费，听起来也是好处。所以第4题答案选 A. Best of all 最棒的是。好，最后第5题，请同学看到最后一段。压花艺术已经存在好几个世纪了，早在16世纪的日本，武士呢就用压花训练心智。在19世纪的欧洲，淑女喜欢用压花装饰信件还有日记。现在轮到你，空格，这个美丽又古老的传统了。4个选项都是动词片语，是词汇题。那我们看选项中文意思，再按照前后文做出选择。A. Compete for 是竞争，再来 B. Cope with 应对，再来 C. Carry on 是继续进行 D. Call for 是要求需要。能够和 tradition 搭配的动词应该只有 C. Carry on 继续进行，意思就是传承延续这项传统，所以第5题选 C。 好，以上就是我们针对压花工艺这一篇文章，题型呢是克漏字选择所做的解题。好，那希望同学都能够把握解题的技巧。I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Okay, we're at the end of today's lesson, and hopefully we have inspired you to try flower pressing yourself. I'm not going to try it myself, but I would have more of an appreciation of flowers as a result of our lesson today. So thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time. And if you can't wait that long, then check out our extra content on YouTube and Facebook. Either way, we look forward to seeing you next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.